All right, everybody. Well, thank you for showing up for this follow-up for a contract standards community call. We're going to be talking again today a little bit about the multi-token / semi-fungible token standard and progress on the reference implementation and what we might be able to do to help move it forward or incentivize people to finish out a reference implementation. So this is a community call. It'll be pretty open. We're really only discussing that one topic today. Nobody else added anything to the agenda, but if something comes up, please feel free to bring it up if we have time. And I guess we'll get right into it. So Robert, do you want to talk through some of your thoughts that we went through a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, so hi everyone. And yeah, I mean, like the topic we want to discuss is a little bit bigger, yeah. So how to like really move this forward. So over the last weeks, we were chatting about like the problem that many of ideas are stagnated, not moving forward, and how we can solve it. So I prepared like a short document. Let me share it. Here. So let me present it. 1 second. All right. Can you see it?
Yep.
Right. So like the problem here I want to discuss is a little bit wider, bigger. Yeah. So how to move with the contract standard forward and unblock them. Firstly, I want to like say that I mean, we have a few very good contract standards that made directly from the community or from the projects that were working and they wanted contribute and move it towards community to present the standard. It's also, I think, like a lot of learning for both for the project and the community, and there are a lot of values. Yes, why to do the standard? Why to do a standard? Mainly, the biggest value is to establish a common interface, which can be used by various other protocols and tools to integrate with and basically to compose. So I want to like state a few problems we have currently. So firstly, yes, like we see that in Ethereum, because they have huge community, a lot of innovations are happening there, and then other communities are trying to copy this innovation and adapt. We observe that many project proposed standards are just copies of the ELPs. Sometimes it's good because it was validated by a large community and live projects. So it's not that I'm against personally about copying the EAP and make a NEP out of it, but yes, very often it requires a bit more thinking and a bit more validation. And in fact, this is what like matches the multi-token standard perfectly. Because initial version is just a copy paste. 1 second. Sorry. All right. So whenever we do the standard, yes, we regularly need to do the research, we need to do the homework and see if what was proposed for EAP really works well for NEAR. As we know, NEAR is different because NEAR is not EVM, although yes, we have Aurora, but NEAR runtime is different. Yes, we are not limited to both on the language and the computation model of the EVM. So to summarize, we need more engagement for drafting this innovation and also the validation. And one thing I want to present here is the idea of the hackathons. So with hackathons, we often create bounties for projects which we are going to promote. BOSS is a perfect example of that. However, it's good to notice that hackathon is a perfect place for testing new approaches, right? So like when you ask someone what's a hackathon about, probably the first thing he will mention will be like sleepless night, being tired, networking, right? But the goal, in fact, is to move forward. And so we want to move forward either with the existing project, do the validation, show it up to the community, test it, validate it. And this is exactly what we want for the contract standard. Validate it and test it, right? So like having the opportunity that for in real life hackathon, that we can discuss architectures, collect ideas, solve problems, brainstorm, approach problems that you may not encounter when you do it alone, discuss integrations, promote it with other projects, foster a sense of the community. So all of it is already a validation. Right, so for anyone like hearing it, it would be like great to have your feedback. And having more feedback, of course, also helps us to act and see how we can address the ideas we are presenting and the community expects. So going to the multi-token standard, there are two. So initially it was started. I don't remember what's the project name which created the multi-token standard, but basically there was a need for it. So initial version was a copy or heavily influenced by the EIP 1155. So the 1155 multi-token standard on Ethereum. And then it was used by different projects. Notably, I know that OpenForest has its own version, and we already proposed them to engage. There is this multi-token Telegram channel where everyone who would like to engage is invited and talk with. The DevHub has many bounties, so if something is needed, we can always discuss. There are different programs, yes, how to move forward with the standard work. So the initial proposal, which is already merged to as a NEP, is still not approved. So it's the first draft, and that's the NEP 245, and it requires more work. Yeah, so there is one initial implementation. Like I said, OpenForest protocol has another implementation, and the outstanding problems which have to be discussed are related to the bridging solution. So if you want enable the cross bridge between ERC 1155 tokens and multi-token 245, yes, then there are a few issues, especially that 1155 also represents some non-fungible tokens. Some people propose that to port the 1155 directly to either NEP, to either fungible tokens or non-fungible tokens. That doesn't match all the time. I know personally few projects related to the energy sector that specifically want to combine in a single contract the fungible tokens, so like the multi-token standard represents. Then gaming finance projects need seamless interoperability between various kinds of assets that ERC 1155 enables. So yeah, mainly we need the validation. We need to see how this can be used before moving out of the draft mode, and approve it. So that's a short. There are few people who want to do, but since they don't have the time, and I discussed like a few proposals, how we could enable it, how we could incentivize this work.
So my comment would be that, well, first of all, 1155 does not look like what we have right now in multi-tokens, because I feel like the multi-token standard that we currently have was mostly influenced by the FT and NFT contracts that will standards that we already have in near space, rather than the 1155 itself. Like events and the arguments and the function names were all from existing tech, basically, in near, and I don't see much of a influence from ERC 1155 besides the fact that it just talks about the concept of mixing FT and NFT in one contract.
I mean, actually, okay, we could like discuss like how much influence is there, how much influence is not there. I mean, when I see the functions definition and description, like here, for example, the approval, the whole approval mechanism, there are a few things which are.
I don't see it in 1155 at all.
Oh, 1155 has approval mechanism, if I remember correctly.
Well, it's set approval for all, is approved for all, like whatever. I mean, as you said, I don't see any reason to be like just copy pasting, and my point was that there is not much to copy paste to begin with.
Right.
So your proposal was to host some hackathon to announce it more widely, in order to validate, to test it out.
Yeah, it's just open invite, either for a team who is like listening, yes, to move forward, validate, presented an idea with a hackathon that there could be a bounty for a hackathon related to that, for a successful validation and showing MVP.
How do you see the validation? What would be the result of validation?
Yeah, good question. So MVP, working MVP, with good documentation. So talking about the consequences, considerations, what worked, what didn't work. Kind of like a document explaining the thinking process to make sure that the research was done. Right. So not only the working product, but also providing an explanation or justification, yes, why this is a right approach.
Okay, I wonder, like, it is a lot of work, and I totally see the value in having a bounty there. But who would be the judges and who would be the participants? How do you see somebody from near ecosystem internally would be the participants, or do you want to engage with somebody outside of the ecosystem?
Right. So if we do the let's say DevHub hackathon bounty, then I imagine that one person from the hackathon, sorry, from the DevHub should be a judge. Usually, like, you know, when you have a hackathon, yes, then organizations who propose the bounties are judges. There's someone else from an organization who proposes a bounty has to be a judge.
What would be the Well, how do you imagine the next steps after the hackathon?
Finalizing the NEP.
Finally, who will be finalizing the NEP?
The team who is taking the challenge.
Okay, so my point is that maybe we need to also prepare them to for these follow-ups, because without that, the validation would be just another standard, basically, like one more standard in the ecosystem. So that is my concern.
Why one more?
I mean, isn't that known meme of having like we need one standard to rule them all, and then we have n+1 standard in the ecosystem.
Yeah, but that's different, right? Like we need standards to for composability and for integrations with the tools. Like that's the whole idea about the standards, and also it's like a perfect learning example. When someone is, for example, reading how the NEP 141 works, it's a good learning about this, solution design.
Robert, would you
So
mind
without
moving
standards,
away
you won't
from
reach a good
this
composability.
screen? Sorry. The infinity mirror is going to be in the recording, so.
Oh, you mean?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
There is a question in the chat. Sal, do you want to maybe speak to it?
Oh yeah, I was just wondering if the idea would be to do the hackathon prior to the standard being approved, or if it's something that would be done after the standard is approved. I think someone responded here. Max responded saying it would be prior. Is that correct? Is that what you had in mind, Robert?
I think the whole point, yes, to battle test the pieces of standard that already exist, and then the challenges that the implementation may surface to us when we actually try to use it. So I feel like that is the whole idea of the hackathon, to solidify the standard only after we have real confirmation that it actually works, and we can compare. Did it diverge from the standard? Why? Can we do better? Are there still unresolved problems? Because as far as I remember, there were challenges around interface design of what to return when we have get balance in fungible token. It's clear, it's just a number. In non-fungible token, it's also clear. It's the presence of metadata of the token that you're owning or not. In multi-token standards, it's not clear because you have potentially several tokens, and each of them can be several instances of those. So it was a bigger question of what would be the useful method, not just whatever. Let's return whatever. So the question was to even potentially test it from the wallet side, what wallet users would need, and maybe games, because I feel like games are the most prominent users of multi-token standard. So stuff like this, at least how I view it. Robert, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so two things. Yeah, so what I mentioned at the beginning, foster innovation, right? So you can propose a new standard, which is missing. So you can identify, okay, I have this idea, but to implement it correctly, I cannot do it in a way how I now. Yes, and hackathon can give you the opportunity to really validate it. And that's the first step. Or move forward with the existing open problems we have. So everyone is invited to create an issue, discuss about what's missing from in the near as a near improvement proposal. Right. So we should also think that NEP is really an idea of what and how we can improve. And the multiple standards, maybe like a standard could be like overloaded as a word here. If you see how Ethereum in fact works, right? So we have ERCs and EIPs, Ethereum improvement proposals and Ethereum requests for comments. So even for the fungible tokens, yes, there are many approved, let's call them EIPs. And I think that serves the innovation as well, right? We need to be open. I mean, if you like look in our real world examples, yes, like the world doesn't stop. Near, you can say it's an improvement over another blockchain, and it should evolve as well. And yeah, I mean, cables. You have USB version 1, version 2, version 3. USB-C is not compatible with USB-C, USB-A, or the micro USB. And there were reasons for that. Yes, it's a long process. I'm not saying that every hackathon or like every proposal will be finalized or merged, but it will leave a trace and good learning that we can reference in the following issues or following proposals. So definitely, we need to do research. We need to like open up this area for more for the community, and be open for this innovation.
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously, innovation, and I think a hackathon is a great idea to see, how this standard could be implemented and all. But just to play devil's advocate a little bit, there are, you have Open Forest Protocol, who is using their own solution here. You have Tenement, which is the Uncle Tony implementation that we refer to.
Tenement?
Tenement, yeah. AMINT. The other one. The other but that's the one that Uncle Tony had posted initially, and it had a few pending comments and a little bit of feedback. But other than that, there wasn't much contention around that one. And so Uncle Tony, unfortunately, does not have the time. He's a member of our team. He does not have the time to kind of complete and address those comments. But, I was speaking to Ken earlier, Ken Miyachi, and he said that, it's looking like it's less than a day's work to address the comments on that implementation. And so he would be willing to step in where Uncle Tony's not able to at the moment, and address those comments and potentially move this forward, but with time being of the essence, because, of course, it's not just Tenement, it's not just Open Forest Protocol. As a part of the Near Horizon program, we're seeing so many members, projects in that program that have a use case or would love to use the multi-token standard if, of course, it becomes a standard. And so, time being of the essence, we would love to see this, move forward. And I understand there's a couple different trains of thoughts on, do we create the perfect standard here, or do we, foster innovation by, moving it forward so we can see projects utilize it, especially the ones that have been utilizing, some version or process, similar to what would be standardized, right? And so that Horizon 1 program it's a 2-month program or I guess 6-week program. We're about 2 weeks into it now. We'll be meeting in NearCon, of course, and there's no shortage of games and other types of projects that will really, really benefit from this if it is, completed and standardized in good time. And so Ken's basically was saying that I can, put an attestation to move forward. He'll help complete and address any comments that are on that reference implementation there. and he would be happy to move this forward because he thinks it's he's saying that it's at the finish line, and all that needs to happen is a guarantee that it will be approved, and we can we can move on because it's been years, right? And so unfortunately it's counterproductive to seek the perfect standard. Sorry, Vlad, go ahead.
Yeah, if I'm
Yeah.
go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, so, well, the only reason it got stuck is that there was no real world validation and ensurement that the proposed interfaces will actually work for whoever will use them. So there is no, and also the second point is I don't see like a justification of not using the standard just because, like, you don't need a standard to implement something that will work for you. You only need standard to be interoperable with the rest of the ecosystem. So what my suggestion is always to build your own version that kind of looks like a multi-token or whatever standard. Test it out, and then if you never looked into multi-token, maybe then look into it and compare how it works. If you looked before, propose the changes that needs to be there in order to serve your use case, and that will be the best piece of information for any piece of feedback that we can then act on and make sure that it's included in the design. I was reviewing the NEP, the multi-token standard, and identified some of the problems with the interfaces, and there were several options how to solve them, but there was no way to validate which way is better than the other. So indeed the changes there are minimal, and that needs to be addressed, but it's only one chance to do it right, in a sense. We will never look back because it will make that we need to support two versions of the multi-token standard, and it's really hard. It's like if we can still do it with one version, even ugly, then that will probably be continuing on. So it's better to design it really in a working way. Sorry, Robert, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that, to move forward, I would really like to see the comparison between the existing implementations in NEO. And we were already calling out for a leader. There was someone from Open First Protocol who wanted to see if we can move it forward from the Open First Protocol side. I don't know, I didn't check the difference between the implementation. However, in fact, we are at a good spot now if you have two implementations, because there is a competition and hopefully a good learning. So that will be valuable for sure for ecosystem, and I hope for the two projects as well. Yes, because that would drive the learning. On the other hand, I don't agree that we just don't need to do anything, because as it was just said that New Horizon already is working with projects which need that standard and maybe are not capable to do it. They have other priorities. And this is something we should understand as well. Meaning that that we should also serve the community here, right, as a DevHub.
Yeah, sure. But how can we design the solution for the project that we are not building for?
Good question. Yeah. So I was already proposing to. Yeah. So either DevHub bounty or a hackathon. For the case of the multi-token standard, because this is the work of it, which already started more than a year ago. The best solution, I'm not sure what would be the best solution, but directly interacting with those two projects. Yes, and see how we as a DevHub can really support them.
I totally
Yeah.
support the idea of inviting the community through the hackathon or through other means. Totally, yeah, totally good.
And by the way, there's something to clarify what we also discussed in the past, that if you do a bounty, maybe with some examples of ideas for new innovation, new improvement proposals, it doesn't mean that a project has to win. Right? If someone is just basically copy pasting without the validation, without a good use case, without good motivation, then it won't qualify for a bounty. And so we as a community should also make sure that there is a value delivered.
So just to take a quick step back, because I want to make sure I'm understanding, is the core need for a multi-token standard to make sure that we have interoperability with Ethereum? Then I'm not entirely sure.
No, we didn't talk about it. We were talking about the interoperability within the ecosystem, within near ecosystem, to make sure that the wallets can have interfaces that they care about, that games have the interfaces they care about, and for example, Boss also has interface it cares about. It's just examples basically, but well, for FT and NFT, those are wallets. NFT marketplaces care about NFT standards. Centralized exchanges care about the FT interfaces. They don't care NFT interfaces. So, and also then Explorer and any history viewers are caring about not the interfaces of how to interact with the contract, but how to observe the state. So the events were baked into those standards as well. So these kind of concerns that needs to be considered. It's not only about the smart contract implementation itself, what makes sense from the smart contract perspective, but from the users, dev tools and dev project services and wallets and exchanges, marketplaces, whatever makes sense. So these are the concerns that needs to be addressed, taken into account when we solidify the design of the standard.
So I guess it's mostly tools like wallets and indexers and things like that that kind of need to have a universal standard so that they can parse that data.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And there are certain limitations, like how much data you can put in one event, how much you can transfer. Can we transfer all the tokens? Can we transfer one of the token? Can we transfer batch of subset of tokens? How would they look like? And how would it fit within the gas limit? So there are a bunch of considerations that needs to be taken into account. And security, when we transferred part of it, and then how do we roll back if something goes wrong? What if we cannot roll back one of the asset but roll back the rest of it?
Yeah, and actually, all of that considerations are really good for a project, because if someone is thinking, and let me talk about it in the framing it as improvements, right? So all these considerations are so valid, because this is a learning for the project. This is a good investment a project can do to propose and discuss a new improvement, and see the community critics and discover potential issues. So what I'm trying to say is that making an issue and sharing with the community some innovation or improvement proposal, could be also seen as a value added for a team who's researching that and want to do the work. to propose a particular improvement.
And so what would the timeline look like on a hackathon? Obviously, I'm just, I'm cautious of the time involved and the, further delay and all of that, just because, especially in this economy, not, projects have a limited, runway, of course, right? And so, time is of the essence for so many of these projects, which are struggling to fundraise and all of this. And if their game or their NFT or whatever it is, or their collectible is not viewable in a wallet because this there's no standardization, it becomes counterproductive in a way. So it's I guess my question would be, in terms of a hackathon, how long would that take to organize and to really gather all that feedback that you guys are say it would be valuable, right?
How long does it take to organize a hackathon? I mean, it takes a lot of time to organize and a lot of effort to organize a hackathon. Yes, but that's like, many teams are engaged, yes, to organize a hackathon.
How soon
how long?
would it be like? Would it be how soon do you think this could be executed? Really?
Oh yes. When? How? Well, like usually hackathons are welcoming like different sponsors, right? So if there is a sponsor for a hackathon already, NEAR is already sponsoring many hackathons. There are online hackathons there. Like at the NEARCon, there will be next hackathon. I don't see. I mean, probably like Frog can better.
I can answer, but
that.
I don't believe we should be batching this task into a regular hackathon. As I already said, hackathon, the hackathon that are all the hackathons should have a theme. Otherwise, it's a random mix of people with random skill. For standardization specifically, we need not an app developers to even try to tackle this problem, but the people who can actually attack this problem holistically. And this is different type of crowd, and they're limited around the world. So I would totally make it 100% online event and dedicated to one single topic agenda, and maybe even launch it like next week. I don't see any problem with that.
Yeah, and how many? Obviously
there is a NEAR Hub, right? Like update to host a hackathon.
Yeah. How many desired? Like obviously, as many as possible would be great, but how many submissions for the hackathon would be considered suitable amount of feedback to move forward with a standardization?
So usually, like for the standard, I mean, like depends, right? But at least one strong verification and adoption is required. The more, the better. I think it all. I mean, depends on the proposal, on the improvement proposal itself.
Right.
To be honest,
because
to me it sounds more like a bounty that we want to publish and just ask for as many contributors to claim and try to provide the best proposal there. Because hackathon, I don't know, to me it doesn't click. Hackathon is something quick that you try, experiment, and drop. And standardization is opposite of that. You need to put a lot of effort thinking through the whole like corner cases and problems you may face. So I'm still not sold 100% on like terms of hackathon, but yeah, it could be a bounty with just a reward for several.
Hackathon won't finalize a NEP, and yes, it will only like start and kick it off and provide some incentive to drive the innovation, right? So I don't see that whole proposal will be finalized, but I see it as kind of a venue, yes, which can drive an innovation on the protocol level.
What I hear is you suggest to just sit and wait, maybe throw money, sit and wait, type of like activity, instead of just actually like asking specifically what is needed and how much we can offer for that work. That's my
Oh
take.
no, it's not like sit and wait. This is what we are doing now.
Maybe what we need is to go out and survey the people who need a multi-token standard for the things that they're building, right? And what considerations. It would be helpful to know like what exactly it is that everybody needs, because apparently this is a popular topic, right? And if we're going to standardize something, we need to be able to make sure that it's going to be inclusive of all the use cases that somebody's going to have. I almost think that we need those parameters before we could really even post a bounty necessarily. At least that's kind of what's going through my head. It's kind of challenging to get everybody to weigh in, but if there is enough interest, and it sounds like people think there's enough interest, I think we should be collecting that kind of feedback and starting like an ongoing discussion, which, yeah.
Absolutely. There was someone from New Horizon, yes, who said that they got
Max,
questions. So,
sorry, not Max. Ken from Near Horizon, is a big supporter of moving this along as soon as possible. And so, once again, to play devil's advocate, if the goal of a hackathon is to get, use case and implementation, to refer to before standardization, then, we've already done that, right? Because Tendermint has done it. Open Forest Protocol has done it, and they've invested time and effort and attention to it. Ref Finance uses their multi-token standard. I don't know how they use it, but they use it somehow. I have a link here somewhere. And then
yes, it's here.
there's a game called Rogues that I don't know if they're using it yet, but they plan to use it. Few and Far, I remember previously mentioned that they have plans to use it. I'm not sure if they're implementing it now. And then Ample, Kenny is usually on these calls. I guess he couldn't make it today, but he is a big supporter of this as well. And, if, to your point, Max, the one thing that's in common when I talk to all of these people is that it's not the details of what they need from the multi-token standard. It's that they need the multi-token standardized. And then they will work through that, as opposed to working on a million different parameters and trying to figure out what's best. They actually the thing that's best is that it gets standardized ASAP. And so just because of how long it's taken and where everyone is, and how they've implemented it so far, everyone's just ready to move forward. And that's the theme that I get when I speak to them.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, that's the proof that like today we are sitting and waiting, rather being like more active and finding how to act to move that forward.
So this is the problem I see. There are 4 implementations of contract and 1 service to it, and there is no validation from wallets, from explorers, from indexers. And then basically this is the missing piece, and we try to invite validators to the call, or not validators, wallet developers to the call, and this didn't happen because they have their own priorities, and it seems like wallets are not really interested in like multiple multi-fungible token. So we need to clarify if it is the case and how to solve it.
So
from my perspective, like I was already talking with some wallets for various different subjects. Multi-token standard for this case is not their product. However, if there are like a few projects for that who are using it already and there is a standard, then wallets will be eager to implement it because people will use it, right? So so the wallets, in fact, are waiting for projects adopting the standard and using the standard. And then I guess like the first wallet will implement it, will show it up. This will drive the users, and the other wallets will follow.
Yeah, and you know, just to build off of that, Here Wallet did say that if it's standardized, they will adopt it and use it. So it's and implement it. So you know,
But somebody needs to like when they will implement it, they will immediately hit the problems if somebody wouldn't think about how wallets would implement it. So wallets should come and review what's there and like provide the feedback. Is it implementable on the wallet side? That's the question they need to answer. If it is,
oh yeah, but they want to do the like right, but they want to drive the innovation here. They can do like a final review, but we first need to like do the, let's say, final proposal.
So kind of my question is like, if projects are waiting for a standard and wallets are waiting for a standard and everybody's sitting around and waiting for a standard, why is nobody delivering a standard? And if that's the case, like what can we do to help them? Because clearly this is something that a lot of people have interest in, but I mean, none of them really seem to have, I mean, like we have basically just you on this call, Sal, right? So I mean, what can I do to get the buy-in necessary that we can all get together and make this happen?
Everyone is just exhausted from the lack of, you know, and I don't mean to point fingers or you know, I understand that there's so many different trains of thoughts on how to go about this. But you know, you can imagine as, you know, founders of projects, they do have other priorities because this priority, which is honestly at the top of everyone's list, you know, there's no movement behind it. And so, you know, I personally, like we had Uncle Tony working on this extensively, but there was so much, you know, there was no forward movement, and we couldn't do what we needed to do in time. And then we don't have his resources anymore. You know, he's still with us in a very limited capacity. He's unable to contribute to this. And so, you know, luckily I was able to speak with Ken, who said, hey, look, there's 7 comments on the reference implementation there, and I would be able to address every single one of these. I agree with most of them. I could do this in less than a day if I have confirmation that is enough for us to move forward. And that's basically where we're at right now. And you know, speaking with the other teams, Open Forest Protocol, Ample, you know, they are on board with that as well. And I understand that the wallets do need to provide their input, but I think that could maybe happen at like the final stage once we are all in agreement, right? And you know, once those comments are addressed, if Ken goes in, addresses those comments, and we can, you know, vote to move this forward. And if, you know, we just need a wallet, Here Wallet, to say, you know, this is, you know, we can implement this, then we can move forward, right? And it kind of defeats the purpose of the hackathon. I mean, we should still do a hackathon anyways, because it is a major accomplishment, but and a great thing for the ecosystem. But, you know, we already have, you know, use cases and people who have dedicated a lot of time to their own implementations here, right?
Yeah, totally agree. Yes. Unfortunately, we have this problem that all the time. So on one hand side, now in this call, I think it's very clear that we've verified that people are waiting for it. They need it. They need it for getting a more adoption that will also help their projects. And on the other hand, yes, lack of time to drive it.
All
Yeah,
right,
which goes
so,
back to the point like that, you know, we should not like, sit and do nothing.
So what do we, I guess the question is, if Ken says that he can move this forward in a day, right? Like, what's the concern then? Like if we have an informal standard for some period while we wait to see if that actually delivers on what everybody needs, is that like an adequate place to start, or what's just struggling to
So
see like what exactly the best next steps are.
Ideally, if let's say it's Uncle Tony, who's Ken, by the way? Can anyone like clarify that?
Ken Miyachi from Near Horizon. It's like the less tech people at NF.
Yeah, so this guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
near tech lead, yeah.
Right. Okay. So I think it's Uncle Tony who is able to move it forward, not Ken. If I understand correctly.
No, Uncle Tony is not able to contribute, but Ken is able to contribute on behalf of the implementation written by Uncle Tony. So he will pick up and address the comments that are outlined.
To pick up and.
Okay, is there some insight at all the people who want to support the multi-token standard, who are like the engineering leads from each party that could like comment on this? Because right now it looks like a lot of these startups are at like limited capacity, or they may not have the same eng lead, or like, because that's kind of like the only person identified was Uncle Tony before, and then on the wallet side, the only like really active wallets are like here and Meteor. And there's like 3 engineers, and then your blocks is like the main indexer. So it's like, yeah, like I'm just trying to get a sense of like who to actually reach out to like, to outside of one person pushing forward a silo implementation.
So from my perspective, ideally, like one of the person involved in the implementation. So either someone from OFP, someone from Tenamint. I heard also about Ample. Right, to like propose, like if he wants to do it, yes, then he can make a proposal for a DevHub or whatever. What he needs to, to do the whole job. And as for the tasks, I listed here like the to-dos. So like have more feedback. We need to respond. That person, yes, with his opinion to respond on the comments. I mean, we were saying that on some comments we agree, on some comments maybe not, I'm not sure. Compare the implementations, so that's, I think, very important. And then put all of it together into the new pull request to finalize this net, including the findings about the comparison between those implementations, proposal of the final interface, right, including the justification, why this, why not another, and collect the considerations and document them.
And who would be the leader here?
Sorry?
Can say again? Sorry.
Like it looks like Ken is like the main engineering like point of contact for this. I don't know who from OFP. Like Luke's been part of the conversations, but he's not the technical point of contact. So, and I haven't seen anyone on the Ample side, just Kenny, and he's not a tech lead either. So like that's kind of what I'm trying to identify. Like I think Ken's the lead, but in terms of people commenting on this implementation, like we can definitely get like near blocks here in Meteor, but I don't know who else from like that's actually implementing the MT token, like who that point of contact is.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely get Alex to, look it over. I mean, obviously he's been supportive of everything that Uncle Tony, put together initially, and he's been supportive, so he can definitely co-sign it once Ken is has gone through it and addressed those comments. From the Tenamint side, that would be Alex. And I can obviously reach out to Luke and Kenny and ask them to have, whoever their tech lead is to look it over and co-sign it as well, or address any concerns if there are any.
Okay.
Okay, so we have like this the list. Do I miss anything?
I think this is a good place to start. So it sounds like Ken is probably the first person that we should talk to. And then I've got a list kind of a bunch of projects that have some kind of implementation, and then the wallets that we should probably talk to. I mean, it will be nice to get everybody in the same room and just hash this all out so we can move it forward, because it sounds like people are frustrated about feeling stuck. So I mean, we need to get over that hump is my perspective. And maybe it would be good to incentivize that somehow. Maybe it would be good to, have some kind of competition, but one way or another, we do need to make sure that we can't just, keep talking about it.
Yeah, we have to move forward one way or another. So I do think this is a good start. I do hope that, like, if we go through this process here, that we are actually moving forward towards, standardization and approval. Obviously, that's a big thing for Ken. I spoke with him right before this call. I had a meeting with him at 12:30. So right before this call, I spoke with him, and obviously the main concern from his perspective and my perspective, is that there's no guarantee that if the comments in place right now are addressed and a solution is found for any points of contention, there's still no guarantee that we're moving towards approval, right? And that's really what he wanted. I understand if we can't get that, but I hope that everyone here is in agreement that we do need to actually standardize this and move forward. And I can't stress it enough. Time is of the essence, because people are losing their, people aren't attending this call because they haven't seen the progress that they need to see to prioritize this, despite it being such a major item on their things to accomplish, right? And from our project perspective, right?
So whatever is ready for review is always moving forward. We already approved quite a number of pull requests and NEPs there. So it's actually like the NEP process a year ago, before a year ago, and today is like miles ahead. It is not perfect, but it is moving. So it's actually like digesting all the comments. There is a like regular calls, and if necessary, like it's progressing. And if there is enough interest, and like there is an initiative group of people who actually use it, who can provide their feedback, who can address the security concerns and see it through, I have no reason to stop the innovation and stop like the process. I'm only like looking forward to get the standards merged, as we did with what's called cell-bound tokens, which started much later than MFT, and it's already merged, which was also not super simple process, but there was a person who, and Robert is on the call, who just pushed it forward, and we had a lot of discussion. There were some concerns. There was no like reference implementation at certain point, but yeah, we did it. So, and the only missing bit here for multi-fungible token is somebody who would lead it and be there, consult, address the comments, re-engage again, and push it forward and see it in production as we currently see. I'm Human live, and it's picked up by the community. So this is the process, and I know the complaints of like not getting somebody is not doing the job is not like the right way to do it, especially
No, that's not the intention of what I was saying. I know you guys are doing your job. I know you guys, do want innovation. It was just more like people just want, guarantees that we can move forward. It sounds like we're all on the same page and
we
and
can
that
move
we are.
forward. Yes, there is a lot of evidence that we do move forward.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm not saying we don't. I'm just saying that's
Okay,
kind of what's needed to convince someone, like Ken, to obviously put his time into this. So, I think that's good enough for me. I believe that'll be good enough for him when I speak with him later today. And I think we can move forward with this, and I'm excited. And I appreciate everyone's time today as well.
If we plan it very well, I can even make everyday call if that is going to help and move it forward. I can allocate this time and let's get it shipped. That's I don't know.
I do recognize the net process has evolved tremendously. But I think the harsh reality of it is there isn't really that many capitalized teams that have lead engineers to take these ideas that they have and put them into a reference implementation. And I think there needs to be some coordination on that part, because and some type of time limit and time cap, because even if someone pushes it forward, there's just it's a lot of time and a consuming process, and there really isn't that many people nor that have much incentives to not focus on what they're doing, which is building products. So if there's kind of a way that people can take ideas for products and then work with the core team to make those standard reference implementations, I think it would be way easier for getting the wallets and the indexers to comment on that. But yeah, the reference implementation part's been a blocker for a lot of these kind of things in ideation.
Yeah, just to clarify one thing, for SBT, there was always a reference implementation from the very beginning. Go ahead.
Okay, but it was still evolving through the time.
Oh yeah, that's for sure, and that was it was evolving in a good direction. So the whole process was beneficial for I'm Human for sure.
Vlad, do you think it makes sense to put out a request for product style post on DevHub and have people, make a proposal? Because if it's a question of incentives or compensation, is that something that we can do something for?
Yeah, we can probably post an idea and ask if it's a question of funding, name your price,
Right. If it's a question of engineers that just need money for engineering time, I mean, we can probably make that happen, I think. So
actually, that was one of the goals of this, my presentation, if I can call it in this way, right? To provide the context that we need innovation, the project needs standards, and there are two ways, at least what I listed, right, to incentivize it. And so hackathons and DevHub. So not a shout out to everyone to pick up, propose, share, support, and yeah, it's a good idea to also make a more specific proposal on a DevHub.
Yeah, and I think obviously funding is a key part of this, because although it's not relevant now, I believe that Uncle Tony would have been able to complete this work if we were able to retain him on team as a primary tech lead. But unfortunately, due to time spent on this without getting funding, as well as just other expenses, we're unable to retain him full time, which led to this. Obviously, we came to a halt because obviously he's not able to contribute to this any longer, right?
I see one, if I hear it correctly, between the lines, it seems that people who wanted to engage didn't want to continue to engage because they see that we as a contract standard group were not providing enough support or blocking it too much. Did I hear it correctly, before what we were saying?
No, I don't know about that. I think that earlier in the year, when a lot changed, obviously with the process, the DevHub was introduced. We did put a proposal forward to carry this out all the way down from, conceptualization to writing the, implementation, getting feedback from wallets, indexers, everything that we're talking about now that was proposed in the DevHub with a hackathon at the end of it. And every single thing that we're talking about on this call was all proposed in like maybe January or February. And if it, and then, there was, I don't know, maybe some delays there. We never really got that move forward. And then, of course, we started these calls in what looks like March or April or or maybe even June. We started doing these community calls for this particular standard, and then we started seeing some progress. But then by then it was a little bit too late for our own team, so it's just a matter of like just timing didn't match up. But we obviously have seen the contract standard, your team do a fantastic job, of course, with the soulbound token, and Alex was a part of that as well. And I'm glad to see that was approved and move forward. And we're just really hoping for the same type of solution here, and it looks like we're working towards that. So I think we're all on the same page now. But that's just kind of where we were at the start of the year.
Right. Yeah. So from our perspective here, yes, like we are really missing a leader from the project who has like the valid use case to finalize it. We did try like a few attempts to move it forward, yes, like ask specifically to drive it. But it definitely took a lot of time.
Yeah. Obviously from my perspective, I wish it could be me because, I can't do the technical aspect the way you guys can, right? And so, we do need someone to step in. Thankfully, Ken has, put his hat in the ring and said, look, if it's actually going to move forward, we can do it. And so, and I think that's a great resource because not only is he, able to do it and able to do it well, but he's also, on the Horizon team, which is directly going to, get all the other Horizon teams involved as well, who can utilize the multi-token standard, right? And so there's an option, to maybe get those cosigns from, open force protocol. I'm actually not sure if they're in Horizon, but I know Ample is. I know Rogues is. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was, many others that are interested in this, seeing this go through. So, yeah.
So let's wrap up this topic, right? From our side, we are committed, yes, to provide the help. But like we said, like ideally we need a leader from one of these projects to do the work, justifying. Vlad even proposed, right, to have like a daily or regular calls. So if it's needed, like pick us up and we will support.
Okay, sounds good to me. I think that's. I think we can move forward from there. I think we're going to have the involvement required to do this. So.
Perfect.
And one comment from me is, I think previously we made not a great choice of trying to implement the reference implementation inside near SDK immediately, and that was really sorry about that. It's happening. So I think what we need is a simple implementation, standalone contract with using near SDK, but not trying to create like traits and all that. Just pure methods with interfaces. Okay, this is the function call. This is the how the like log would look like. So don't try to make it 100% implemented in a SDK primitives, but rather focus on the actual meat of it, how it interacts, how it what are the interfaces. Yeah, that's a comment because like I feel like we often see people trying to jump into the train of finishing up that old implementation in SDK REST, which I don't think is an easy task. And it requires like both having the standards and also making nice interfaces to work with, like DevX basically of it, which is a different problem to solve.
Okay, anyone else wants to add something?
Good. I guess we are good.
Okay, so let me
Thanks for staying on.
jump for maybe a few minutes only, to show like our existing board and also request for comments. So we have 3 issues or pull requests that requires more comments. This is like the super old one. I don't remember.
Yeah,
what's the status of this
that one is weird. That one, like, again, this is the evidence how hard it is to change the standard when it's already implemented in SDK and also used in the community. So yeah, this one is kind of dead end there. So don't look
Should we
into
like reject it at some point?
it. Maybe.
Okay.
Let's focus on more tangible.
Yeah, so here is a good one because it's related to the multi-token standard. So approval management, what
I kind of think that it's blocked on like the whole design.
Right.
Overall.
Let me maybe also add it to to-do. Look and create or check this one. Okay, and SBT metadata standard. This one is a metadata that was required by, in fact, wallets to move forward, and also issuers. So, in fact, few issuers which we were talking with were asking what to put and how to put in the metadata. Here in the summary, we are already like explaining that metadata is roughly defined. For the SBT, it was heavily influenced by the NFT. What's the NFT metadata? But in fact, like when using it and looking at the issuers were already asking about more details. So here we go with more details. So open call, please have a look, especially like for other projects who also are like dealing with issuing tokens. That will be a good learning, in fact, for everyone, because we could adapt this guideline to maybe even NFT.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we are over time, and I feel like I need to run.
And that's all.
20 minutes past the hour, but thanks everybody for showing up. A really great discussion today. I'll get the recording posted to YouTube, and I'll try to follow up with some of the people that we talked about, particularly Ken, and see what he, wants to work on. Yeah, I'd really love to see this get finalized. So, I guess we'll call it here. Thanks everybody for showing up, and hope to talk again soon.
Yeah,
thanks
you guys, everybody.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's awesome. Thank you.